Hello, everyone. During the pandemic, there were many people that got into the short-term rental industry, and there are some people that have exited the industry now, but there's still a lot of competition. And today's topic is how to stand out when you're trying to compete with all the other Airbnbs or short-term rentals that are in your area. Let's go around the room. We've got a great group today of six of us from around the world, all short-term rental hosts, and we'll give some input into how to stand out in a crowded market.
So for me, with Ginger Gold, the first thing I'd accept is you might not stand out. As a host, everything's a learning curve, and that you'll feel a lot of pressure to stand out. But at the end of the day, markets go up and down, and you're not. Nobody's protected against what the market does. When times are good, you'll probably see more income. When times are bad, you'll probably see less income. So first of all, forgive yourself, and especially if you're managing for others, it's not your fault if the market is a bit crowded, right? The market will drop, the market will increase. All you can do is do better than the market, or do better for your clients than the others are doing within your market. So the first thing to really think about is when the overcrowding or oversaturation is happening, which we're seeing since COVID. Obviously, after COVID, there was a staycation boom, and then all of a sudden, everybody went out and invested in short-term rental because there just wasn't enough, and everyone had staycations and that kind of time. And since then, a lot of people have went, oh, let's invest in short-term accommodations and short-term rentals. And last year, we did see off the back of that more, and this year is continued to grow. When the upside of this is that you may not need to stand out and that you can find more opportunities, people are going to come to you with stock. And really, what happens in a crowded market is more and more of the best stock comes down in price and becomes the new norm. Markets settle basically over time. So take this as a readjustment phase. Look at your best stock. This is what I'm doing anyway with Ginger Gold. And I'm actually actively trying to get rid of my worst stock. If it just is getting worse and worse, I'm just being honest with owners, just going, hey, the market's moved on since your listing came up. Here's what your one is achieving. And by the way, Price Labs is great for this. There's something called Rental Estimator Pro. You pay $5 if you're a member of Price Labs, and you can basically analyze your market even with an existing portfolio. And for say 2 bedrooms, you can see the lower end of the market. That'll actually give you the Airbnb link, and you can show that to the owner and go, that listing only earned 20,000. Your listing's earning 28,000. But this listing's earning 47,000, and you can actually send them the link of, hey, this is where the market is improving. So what you're doing is you're removing it from your, it's not just your management, it is the market. And you can start to anchor for them that actually there's better units, and they might want to consider reinvesting in the unit, which hopefully will bring them more return, because if they're reinvesting in it, obviously they might get equity growth and all the stuff that goes along with that. So how do you stand out? For me, the answer is focus on the best units, because the best units are going to still stay full now. But during that summer, my prediction is this for 2025 is that because a lot of owners, a lot of managers are having all these conversations of like, hey, market's saturated, what do I do? Then naturally what we'll do is they'll go, do you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to exit the market. I'm going to get out of the market. Now, we saw this before with when COVID happened. Loads of people exited by choice or maybe not. And then because there was an increase in or a maintaining the amount of people traveling, or an increase obviously back then. But my prediction is that come summer, certainly late summer, when a lot of people have exited the market because of regulations, because of saturation, because it's just a pain in the bum to manage short-term rentals, I think that actually we're on for a good end of 2025 if you can hang on. So my answer to this is obviously stand out if you can by niching down and do all that stuff, but ultimately just ride the market and put yourself in the best possible position, not for this week, but for 8 months' time, 9 months' time.
Great advice, Liam. Who would like to jump in next?
I'll go.
Sure, Michael.
So Seattle, yeah, my company's Host Jeeves, and like any kind of situation, basically what we have is we have way more supply than in past years. So aside from all these other factors, Airbnb, for example, has been encouraging new hosts, and lately they actually have a new program for new hosts. They've always had ambassadors and other things like that to help people, become hosts. But now they have like a co-host program where they're actively encouraging people to reach out to other experienced hosts to help them get onboarding. So there's like a bunch of new supply out there. There's still some demand, but way more supply. So that's driving prices down and everything else. But more importantly, what it's doing is it's way lowering the barrier for entry. So there are a lot of new hosts coming into the area, and that's making it much harder for everybody. So I think there's a lot of strategies you can do. The typical stuff, which is like get those 5-star reviews, make your place as attractive as possible, get your current guests to come back, send them, get them on the mail list, do all that stuff. But the main thing I think what you have to do is you have to outlast the new hosts. So you kind of have to dig in because they're going to get tired of it. It's just too much work. Unless they get the co-hosts and they're super happy with that. You just have to like ride it out because eventually they're going to quit because it's way more work than Airbnb makes you think. And so that's what I'm doing because you're not going to get the prices that you were getting, at least not for a while, unless the whole market lifts itself up. So I'm just going to say, do your best to make the listing great, treat your guests really well, get those 5-star reviews, but you just hang in there and outlast the new host. And that's pretty much what I'm going to try to do. So
Yeah, I think that you're right. A lot of people jumped into this space in the last number of years that thought that this was easy. They could just get a short-term rental, they could put it up, and it just sort of ran itself. Airbnb would get the bookings in, and you really didn't have to do much for this. And they're now realizing that this is a full-time business. In order to make this work, there's a lot of work that goes into this business. And so for those people who have thought that they could just throw one together and put it up, I think you're right. A lot of them are not doing well and are also exiting the market.
yeah, it just takes them a while to realize they got to get out of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do anyways. We'll see how it goes.
Super. Who would like to throw in their hat into the ring next?
Yeah, I can jump in next.
Ray,
So
where do you focus your business? And you're in San Diego, right?
in LA.
In LA, sorry.
But yeah, no, that's okay. So most of my properties that I manage now are in Los Angeles and in the Bay Area. But in both of these markets, it's very saturated. I used to be in the Austin market right after the lockdowns really blew up because a lot of investors were putting in money into the Austin market because people were moving there from California and different states. And some of the things that I saw as a good strategy to stand out in a super saturated market is really the interior design portion of it and really niching down on like who your avatar is. So what I've done in the past was niche down on work travelers. What does that look like in a unit? That means you need a standing desk, computer monitor where you can easily plug in if you need to during the day. The right setup for lights for if you have phone calls. So really just selling that workspace in your listings. And then on top of that too, it has to look very different from the other listings that are in the market. So, wallpaper and really high contrast colors that work. It helps that, I do interior design, so I don't need to hire another interior designer to help me do this. But really working with an interior designer, making sure you have those like pops of color and really stand out wallpapers, or in Sergio's case, right, like the plants, right? Filling the space in with really cool design where people are more likely to click on your listing versus like someone else in the market. Because that'll also help move your listing up to the very top of the page, even if this person doesn't end up booking with you. So right now, I actually just came up with a formula for my previous owner on what that looks like in terms of standing out. And currently, it is exactly that. It's going to be the wallpaper and the desks and making sure that is what it's going to look like for every time we onboard these units, because not everyone is doing that. And if you're able to niche down, it's going to be a really good way for you to move up to the search rankings.
I think that that's great advice, Ray. I mean, for those of you, and I'm guessing that most of the people who are watching this do this anyway, but for anyone watching this who don't, I would strongly suggest at least once a month to go on to Airbnb and to do a search for the area that you are in and look at your competitors. I mean, literally go into each one of the listings that are competing with you and see what you would choose based on looking at these listings, because it really is about when you're going on a vacation, it's about the place that you know, can you envision yourself in that place? Is it good photography? Is it enticing? And a lot of that comes down to, as Ray says, will your place really stand out from a look and design perspective?
Exactly. Yeah. And then other things I want to add into that as well is the carousel that you have for the photos. And I think we've talked about this in the past before. It's helpful to kind of point out the different amenities exactly like in maybe photo number 2. Just hop onto Canva, put your amenities in there, put that as photo number 2. So that way the guest won't have to go through the description anymore. And they're like, oh, okay, you have a rooftop. Perfect. Oh, you have a desk. Great. It's starting to check off those things for them without having to add extra time in their search.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a listing recently that for each room, so it had at the beginning underneath the photo description, it had whatever that room was and maybe a little bit about that room. But after that, for every photo, it had a summary of all the pluses for that listing. So that as you were going through the photos, you would see in every photo the top 5 points for why they should choose that listing. And it really brings it back to them. We haven't yet heard from Sergio or from Dina. So which one of you would like to go next?
Yeah, so I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio. So I'm the founder of Jungle House. So to me, I love this because the more people talk about it means the more of a problem it is. And I view that as an opportunity because I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of fear, right? And just like with any businesses, you're going to see all 4 seasons. Winter is coming, whether you like it or not. And even though Liam, you mentioned summer next year, you're thinking it should start to get better and so forth. Yes, spring will come, and then summer will come after that, and then fall after that, and then we're going to go over this in a few years again, and another winter where people are going to be scared and all this. So, to me, as long as you can understand that and overcome it, and kind of to what some of you guys have said is fight through it. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of new hosts now. There's going to be a bunch of new hosts in a month from now. There's going to be a bunch of new hosts in a year from now. There's always going to be new hosts. Airbnb's, that's their job, is to get more listings and get more users. Best believe they're going to do that. Best believe VRBO, Booking.com, they're all upping their game for this industry. So the saturation will always be there. Now, some things that you can do, kind of what Ray alluded with interior design, like we brand the crap out of everything. Wherever anyone sees anything, they see Jungle House. You Google Jungle House, we're on 20 websites. So that way we are over marketing everyone else. Another thing I would say is as long as you are top 20% of your market, you don't really see the saturation as much. It's the people in the middle that really see it all. If you're top 10, 20%, you're always going to be one of the first ones booked. As long as you are priced accordingly, you don't want to be overpriced, but obviously you don't want to be underpriced either, and so forth. So to me, that's as long as you are top of the market, you won't see much of the fluctuation. And the other thing with all my investments, I will always, always, always preach not just location, but proximity. Because I mean, at the end of the day, they say location, location, location with real estate. Airbnb's is no different, but proximity is actually one step further. Where is it walkable to everything? So I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if there's 1,000 or 1,000,000 listings in your city. If you're one of the few that's a block away from the arena or the convention center or whatever, you're still going to be one of the first ones to get booked. So that is something I always preach in every investment I go into.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. Dina, in Kelowna, you are on.
Yeah, so our market heavily saturated. We were heavily saturated before we were heavily restricted. Now we can't even use major platforms like Airbnb to market our properties. So that has been stripped away from us. So it doesn't really matter what everyone's doing out there because everyone's visibility is tough. So the advantage for myself is that I have multiple properties. I am more visible with traffic for my website than an individual owner or somebody with just maybe 5 properties. So that is an advantage, as well as we are still onboarding new properties. So we're kind of saturating our portfolio per se, but taking a cue from Liam is you always renovate your inventory. Who are the lower performers? And how I love how Liam said it, because this is great, because I do have a few that are a little dated, fantastic owners, but they just don't work for what the market wants. So for me, I'm like managing my money as a business so that I won't be one of those people that needs to step away and find something else, renovating my inventory. And then I am excited for onboarding and saturating my portfolio, because when winter is gone and the market comes back, I will have explosive growth, exponential growth in the company. So it is an opportunity. So you just have to kind of set yourself up for success. Don't over leverage yourself. And then, yeah, like Michael said, kind of hang in there, but do it smart. So while I feel like I'm putting in a lot of work right now and I'm not getting paid for it, I know it will pay off. And honestly, I'm hanging on for summer of 2027. That is the long game that I'm playing for my market. To the dust settles, the small guys get out of the market, some regulatory changes perhaps, building that recognition with the brand for what we're doing. And then my word this year is collaboration. So Christmas is a perfect time to do this. Reach out to all of, not necessarily my past guests, but my top performers, which have been like companies, film companies, insurance, necessarily brokers, but the adjusters are the ones, not the adjusters. The adjusters are helpful, but it's the restorations. Those guys are the first ones in the property, seeing how displaced these people will be. And so just even by sending little Merry Christmas messages or checking in with those third-party agencies that send me a lot of business normally, it's a great time to just keep in touch with them. So that's what we're working on right now as Christmas approaches, sending a little message. Hope you're doing well. Don't forget about me.
No, I mean that is we just sent out Christmas gifts to all of our homeowners, and they've come back to us and said thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and you should do the same thing for your cleaners, inspectors, etc., because that really does make a difference. So I love this topic because the name of my company is Stand Out Stays. So how do we stand out? I think that there's two types of managers or people who are in this business. There are those of you who have your own properties that you're managing, and there are those of you who are managing for others, and maybe you have a combination of the two. So it's a little bit different when you're managing your own property versus for others, but you can still make suggestions, even if you've managed for somebody for several years. Because of the crowdedness of the market, you really need to stand out. And so you can suggest to the owners to upgrade things, especially during the slower time of year, and take a look at Airbnb at number one, at the different categories. So, most of the categories are location based, but there are some that are, and when I'm talking about categories, I'm talking about when you do a search and at the very top, it has things like amazing view or chef's kitchen or play, or so the things that you can make a difference with are the amazing pool, play, and chef's kitchen. I think those are the three that don't rely on view. And if you already have those things, or if you add them into the property, or if you suggest to owners to add them in, if you go to, and here's a URL to write down, if you go to elevate.translated.com/categories, you can suggest to Airbnb to add those categories to your listings. So if they're not already, if you have an incredible kitchen, or if you suggest to an owner to upgrade their kitchen and they do so, you can go into this and you can put in the amazing kitchen, and possibly Airbnb will do so. And then go through all the amenities on Airbnb and see if you can add as many of those amenities to your listing as possible, or to your listings, and make suggestions to owners to add those things. Again, you need to stand out from the rest of the crowd. And if people are doing a search and they put in that they only want a place with a hot tub, well, you're not going to be even seen if you don't have a hot tub. So yes, some of these things are more expensive than others, but some of them are not that expensive to add. So I would suggest going into the amenities and adding as many as you can, and then going back to Ray's point, if you can make interior design improvements to your place, or suggest the same to your owners, then it will stand out in the pictures.
Just on that, Lawrence, for the people who are thinking, should I put in a hot tub? Going back to that, on Price Labs, you've got Rental Estimator Pro. You could actually, on there, you can see the results based on the amenity. So you can actually see the results with a hot tub and the results without a hot tub. So that would give you a fairly warm figure as to whether or not it's worth adding that amenity. In other words, if they're doing 10,000 more per year and the hot tub costs you 5, perhaps it is worth investing. And at the same time, if you see the ones with the hot tubs only doing 2,000, then you can make a data-led decision based on there, which is cool.
Yeah, I discovered something really fascinating this week, because I'm actually looking for a home to purchase to do short-term rentals with. And in looking at the competition, most of the competitors that fit into the parameters of the home that I'm thinking have pools. And I'm sort of going back and forth about a pool and the maintenance and the issues with it and the cost, etc. And for a property that doesn't have a pool, to put one in, it's like $150,000 to put in a pool. But in one of the properties that I looked at, they had this gorgeous looking pool picture, and I went to take a look at it. And it was fascinating because it wasn't a pool, it was a swim spa. And they were able to check both boxes of a pool and a hot tub by having this large swim spa, which I did the research, and it costs about $35,000 to put in a swim spa versus $150 to put in a pool. So if that's something that you guys are thinking about, consider a swim spa where you can check off both of those boxes.
Yeah, and then one last thing, Lawrence, to hop onto that. Some of the properties in Austin, when I had them, I recommended that some of the owners do like cowboy pools. So they're just really large, like tins, like watering holes, essentially. And then you can add like a heater to the cowboy pool. So then you check off both boxes. You get a pool and the hot tub as well. So if you're in a market that can allow for that, that's a way cheaper option. $50,000, I think, is what we spent in Austin for that. So maybe, Lawrence, that could be another option for you as well in Nashville.
A cowboy pool. Okay, that's good to know. You learn something new every day.
Just while we're on this topic as well, just because I feel there's a bit of doom and gloom within the market and that. But the thing is, when we look at this entire market, we say in a bad market, right? But there's more travelers this year than there was last year. Next year, there's probably going to be more travelers again. And actually, when you look at our industry as a whole, it's still growing. It's still in this, I wouldn't say infant stages, but it's still a young industry in general. So ultimately, bearing in mind that everybody who is now getting into this business might want you to manage their homes if you're a management agent, we always need to have the mindset, if even though we know it's bad, that person is still going to want to do what they want to do, and they're going to find somebody to help them do it. And whether or not they go and use your competitor down the road or go and use you're best to still help them if you're a management agent. And actually, your job as an owner of your business is to keep your business afloat, like Dina says, by replenishing your stock. Ultimately, there's always going to be a market. And this is the good thing. What is coming is ultimately, and to return to somebody who I mentioned before we started recording, Warren Buffett, he says, bet on the business and not on the market, because ultimately that's how we can all do well in the next 12 months. And I just wanted to bring that point up.
Well, great topic. I think that we've gotten a lot of good suggestions for people on how to stand out in your own markets. Liam, are you able to give us a topic for next week?
I'm always prepared, he says.
Okay.
Names. So let me share my screen.
All right, great.
Let me know if you can see some wheels of names.
Yes, it looks like the Wheel of Fortune.
Awesome.
I like the sound effects as well. Okay, and the topic is mental regulation. I know that Dina is cringing with this one, but
not much you can do when you navigate them. You just follow the rules and
exactly.
for the best.
Okay, we'll talk about regulations then on our next call. We meet once a week on a Tuesday. Thank you again for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it and share this with those people who you know this will benefit. And we all look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of The Real Hosts of Short-Term Rentals. Take care and see you next time. Bye-bye for now.